report by Mike Forecast. It seems like there's going to be some cold weather coming in today. Isn't that right, Mike?
It sure does look like it, Dave. A cold front will be moving in today and over the weekend. Morning haze will turn into clouds that will thicken to produce some patchy rain and drizzle across the country. Wind gusts up to 20 kilometers.
What time is it?
How can I connect to your prayers? How can I concentrate on your words? Those are the kind of questions that you ask a sitter.
7:35.
What's wrong?
I was supposed to write an essay about what I can do to prepare for Mashiach, and now I have to go.
When's it due?
In 45 minutes.
Sounds like you waited for the last minute.
Yeah, I know. I had important things to do.
Well, what are you going to do when Mashiach comes? You won't be ready.
I don't think the teacher meant that we're actually supposed to be ready for Mashiach.
What are you doing, Josh?
Putting on my raincoat.
Why?
Because the weather guy said it's going to rain.
Why do you believe him?
You ever have normal conversations? You know, pointless ones.
When people start chit-chatting pointlessly, they forget about their sitter. This is a sensitive issue. I guess it's better than when they fall asleep and drop me. Are you going to answer my question?
Why do I believe the weather report? Because it's a weather report.
Okay, I want you to hear something, Josh.
And now for the spiritual forecast. Analysts say that they expect that the Holy Temple on Mount Moriah will soon be rebuilt, and the Jewish people will all return to the homeland from around the world to live in Israel, which also means that soon the Messiah will be coming, who is expected to destroy all evil with the power of his prayer. Isn't that something, Dave?
It sure is, Mike. Better buy some real estate while prices are low. Let's get on the line with expert consultant Josh Cohen to explain how to prepare yourself for this exciting historical development.
Hello?
Now do you believe the Mashiach is coming?
It was on the podcast.
Of course I believe in Mashiach, just like everybody else does.
I don't know who everybody else is, but your belief sounds a little shaky. Did you notice that the prophecies in the Torah that talk about times before the Mashiach have already taken place?
They have?
Come with me, Josh. By taking a look at the prophecies that were written in the Torah thousands of years ago, and seeing how one by one they've all come true, we change the way we look at the prophecies that haven't come true yet. Like Mashiach coming. So let's back up 3,000 or 4,000 years. Let's start by looking at some prophecies that were told to our great-great-grandfather, Abraham Avinu. V'nivrachu v'chor kol mishpachos ha'adamah. God said that the Jews are going to be a source of blessing in the world. Put aside for a second the monotheism and morality that we introduced into a primitive pagan world. We've made an unbelievably disproportionate contribution to society in philosophy, psychology, technology. You know, there's been more Nobel Prizes given out to Jews than to any other group. It's a well-known historical fact that Jews became successful and brought success with them wherever they went. Casimir the Great, when he took over Poland, the first thing he did was invite the Jews to come and move in, because he knows if the Jews move in, things are going to increase. Here's something else God promised Abraham. V'hakamosi es brisi beini u'beincha l'dorasam l'bris olam. I will make my eternal covenant with you. You know, the Torah says over and over again that you will last forever. You will always be here. Look at all of the nations that have come and gone, who have stood and could not survive the test of time. The Greeks, today they've been reduced to like a salad. And when was the last time you met an Assyrian? I'm serious. All of the other ancient nations disappeared. So how did we stand the test of time? Because God told us that we would live forever. These prophecies may seem just like historical facts now, but this was all told to Avram Avinu, who was just a shepherd wandering through ancient Canaan. Which brings us to the next prophecy. Your descendants will inherit the promised land. God says to him, look around. Your children are going to need some place to live, right? See the land you're walking on? It's going to be yours. I'm going to give it to your descendants as an eternal inheritance. Exciting stuff, right? Well, I've got some bad news. Prophecies aren't only about the good stuff. Negative prophecies tell us what will happen to our nation if we stray from the path of the Torah and don't listen to Hashem. And I'm sorry to say, Josh, that many of the negative prophecies that we find in the Torah have also come true. But remember, by seeing how the negative prophecies have come true, we can strengthen our faith that all of the positive prophecies will come true as well. Ready? The Torah says, if you reject my laws, you're going to be captured by a large empire and they're going to exile you from your land. You know what exile? That means take the person and throw them out of their land. Do you know that that almost never happens in history? It doesn't make any sense. When you conquer a country, you want to keep the people there to keep running everything. Why would you throw them out? But we were told, your country is going to get captured. And we see that that prophecy was fulfilled. Now, after we say that the Jews are going to go into exile, we come up with a really strange thing. The prophet tells us, you're going to come back after 70 years. The last thing you want to do on a prophecy is give an expiration date. That's like, just give some kind of vague, and eventually you may return. First of all, there's almost no instances of people going into exile, but there's no instances of them going into exile and coming back. Once you go into exile, you go into exile. That's it. And we were told you're going to go into exile, set your watch, 70 years, and guess what happened? Unbelievable. After 70 years, we came back. So the Torah warns us, after we come back from the first exile, if we keep ignoring God, things are going to get worse. And the Torah doesn't leave anything up to our imagination. It tells us exactly what's going to happen. The Lord will bring upon you a nation from far away, from the end of the earth, who will swoop down like an eagle. Who was the eagle? Who used the eagle on their banner? Well, we know today it was the Roman Empire. The Roman eagle. By the way, the fact that America uses an eagle and other countries use the eagle, they all got it from the Romans. The Torah is teaching us clearly, it's not just anybody who's going to come from far away and destroy you. It's going to be the Romans. You know, the Torah gives us two different stories of exile. There's one in Vayikra, there's one in Devarim. And what's the difference? One is referring to the first exile, and one is talking about the second exile. Now, people didn't exile people, and we say not only are you going to go into exile, it's going to happen twice. There's no reason to assume if it happened once that it would happen a second time. Sure enough, the Romans, who didn't do this anyplace else, and remember, the Romans ruled almost the entire known world at that time. You know, they captured every place, and they didn't exile anybody. When he captured France, he didn't exile the Gauls. When they captured England, they didn't exile the British. Wherever we went, we took over the people, we put taxes on them, and that was the end of it. The only place where we exiled everybody is when they came to Israel. And suddenly you find, once again, the Romans break with precedent and decide to take the people from this country and exile them. God doesn't just say you're going to go into exile. He says you're going to be scattered across the face of the earth. Now, how could anybody have anticipated that? Before I get to that, imagine learning Torah the way you'd watch your favorite show, full of action, stories, and fun. That's exactly what Torah Life does. With amazing videos, games, and interactive challenges, it makes mitzvos exciting and turns everyday learning into an adventure you'll actually look forward to. And now, back to the question at hand. And the Romans took the Jews, not like the Babylonians who picked them up and dropped them in Babylonia, took them and scattered them across to Spain, to Italy, to North Africa. Suddenly the Jews appear every place across the world. And this continues to this day. There is almost no place that you can go where there aren't Jews. This has never happened to a people on the face of the earth. There was no way to anticipate it. How did it happen? Because God told us it was going to happen. So what was happening to the land of Israel this whole time? Well, God had a plan. The plan was when we're going to come back to Israel, he wants to make sure there's nobody else living here. The way you do that is by making the land miserable and uninhabitable. You have to understand that in ancient times, Israel was a dazzling garden. Josephus, over 2,000 years ago, wrote that the land of Israel is so fertile that anyone who has a piece of land ends up planting it just because it's so easy. It was something that was astounding in the ancient world. Every mountain had terracing around it. They were growing fruit. They were growing vineyards. This was the most beautiful country on the face of the earth. And the Torah writes, before we even moved into it, when you're going to go into exile, this land will become a desolation. And so when we went into exile, slowly you watch the entire world look at this piece of land and wonder, how could it be that this beautiful, fertile area has suddenly turned into a desolation? What happened? So the sages give an example. When a husband goes away, the wife stays there alone, waiting for her husband to return. And the land of Israel is faithful to the Jewish people. It's waiting for us, and nobody else has been able to take it over. One of the early American politicians who was supporting the Zionist movement said, I went to Israel to visit, and I thought to myself, how can we let the Jews take over somebody else's homeland? But I couldn't find anybody living here, because the land of Israel was just sitting and waiting for their master to come home. The Torah tells us an interesting thing, and that is that wherever we go, people are not going to like us. Now, you have to admit, if there's one phenomena that everyone can agree on, that has been written about over and over again, is anti-Semitism. For some reason, people just don't like us. Tom Lehrer wrote a song in the 1960s. Yeah, and there was one paragraph that said, the Protestants hate the Catholics, and the Catholics hate the Protestants.
Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews, but during...
That seems to be the one thing that everybody can agree on. Now, come on. If you see that the Jews are such a positive force in society, that they do so many wonderful things, how could you have anticipated that everybody would hate us? But just as the prophecy said throughout history, Jews have been hated and persecuted. It's been a rough run these past 2,000 years. Spanish Inquisition, and pogroms, and crusades, and destruction on top of destruction. Until today.
Okay, this is getting pretty scary. So, everybody hating us. You're saying that Hashem told us this was going to happen?
That's right, Josh, but here's the nechama, the consolation. He also told us something else, something we remind ourselves every year on Seder night. Velo echad bilvad omad aleinu lechalosenu ela shevechol davada omdim aleinu lechalosenu. In every generation arises someone to try to destroy us. V'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. We look throughout history. God has saved us time and time again. Until, in spite of the world's best efforts, we're still here. That brings us to the next set of prophecies, the ones that haven't happened yet. We've seen them starting, but they haven't been fulfilled yet. Ready? God tells us, after all of this, V'shav Hashem Elokecha eshvuscha v'richamoch v'shav v'kibetzcha miko ha'amim. Hashem will have mercy on you and bring you back from all the nations. Take everybody from Canada. Yeah? And spread them out across the world. And I say to them, listen, I'm going to come back for you in about 500 years. And never forget that you're Canadian, and I'm going to bring you back to Canada. How long do you think it'll be till you can still identify these people as Canadians? But what does God tell us in the Torah? You're going to go into exile, and I'm going to bring you back. 2,000 years later? We wander from country to country, from land to land. Who in the world is able to maintain a national identity? And all of a sudden the Jews get together and say, hey, I got a great idea. Why don't we all move to Israel? Who's got control of it now? Let me check. Oh, yeah, the Turks. I'm sure they'll be happy to see us. And we're going to come in, and we're going to move into this barren and desolate place, and we're going to all come back together. Well, I don't have to tell you today. At the time, that was a fantasy. Today, the state of Israel has almost half the Jews in the world there. It is the future of the Jewish people. The majority soon will be living in the land of Israel. Plane loads coming from America, plane loads coming from France, plane loads coming from South America of Jews returning to the land, rebuilding the land, making communities. The economy is blossoming. The land is blossoming. The Jews are returning. Things are going just as the prophet said. Not only are we returning, but as I mentioned, the land is blossoming. Remember that for 2,000 years, nobody had been successful in getting the land of Israel to do almost anything. God said through the prophet Yechezkel, thousands of years ago, after we know that the land of Israel will be barren, that when we return, you're going to see that the land of Israel is going to once again become fertile. It was a famous story when they built the city of Petach Tikva. And you know who built Petach Tikva? A bunch of religious Jews from Jerusalem. They weren't farmers. They weren't agriculturalists. And they bought land from the Arabs that was swamp. And they said, we're going to build a city here, we're going to build farms. And the Arabs said to them, but we have a tradition from our fathers that nothing grows here. And the Jews said, yeah, we have a tradition from our fathers that it'll grow for us. But the land becoming fertile for the returning Jews isn't just the fulfillment of a prophecy. It's also a sign that the time of Mashiach is close at hand. The Gemara in Ksuvos says, if you want to know when the redemption is coming, watch the fruits. When you see the land begin to produce its fruit, then you know that you are approaching the final redemption and the Messianic era. You've heard of the Chavetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir. He was living in Poland, and somebody told him that in the marketplace in Jerusalem, there were 11 types of fruits and vegetables. And he got up and started dancing because he said, there's a prophecy that when the land of Israel will begin to give back its fruits, when it begins to be fertile again, then you know the redemption is coming. It was told that at the end of time, the Jews will come back to God. No matter where you have wandered, no matter how far you have gone, it says you will find God. Ki sidrashenu b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha. You will seek Him with all your heart and with all your soul. God told us the Jewish people will come back to God. It's a strange thing because we have seen, starting in the 1800s, an abandonment of Judaism, a thing that has gone on and on and on. When a child grows up in a non-observant family, well, the chances are that as time goes on, he'll become more and more distant from his heritage. But in recent years, we're starting to see this trend reversed. Starting, surprisingly, in the 1960s came along something that's called the Tshuva movement. People who are choosing to return to God, to Judaism, to the heritage that their parents rejected, where there were those who predicted the end of Jews being faithful to Torah, and we find instead that the prophecy is we will find our way back. We're not there yet, but we can see it beginning to happen.
I don't get it. If we're so close to the final redemption, then why are there still so many problems in the world?
Remember, Josh, we're talking about the birth of a new era, when the Jewish people will return to their glory and inspire the world to follow God. Raising the whole world up to a new level isn't easy.
The sages tell us that just like a mother experiences labor pains before giving birth, the whole world will go through a difficult period before the redemption.
Yeshayahu the prophet tells us what will happen during that time. When Mashiach comes, those who still remember the truth will be in small groups. The sages tell us that during this period, people will also disrespect Torah scholars. Throughout most of Jewish history, that wasn't true. There was special status that was awarded. You know, if a person was a Talmid Chacham, a person was a rabbi, they were the people that everybody looked forward to for direction. And yet today you take a look around, religious Jews, and in particular those who sit and study Torah, are insulted and humiliated. We're told that the young will attack the old, and there will be arrogance, and that people will have no respect. There was a time when no kid ever said no to their parents. Everybody, every child listened to their parents. And in a household, if there were grandparents, the grandparents ran things. And the elders were held up in respect. Today, old people? Who needs old people? We don't even know what to do with them. We send them down to Florida and force them to play golf against their will, you know? Nobody has respect for the elderly. Nobody looks at their parents with respect. All of society has crumbled. It says that places of respect will be turned into places of ill repute, yeah, where people are going to engage in behavior that's not so nice. I can't tell you there was never anybody doing bad things, but it wasn't official. You didn't have theaters and movie theaters, you know, and opportunities to be able to have these things taking place everywhere without any limitations. Today, morality is made fun of. All the assumptions that society was based on are gone. This was prophesied. God said this would happen. So I think you got to admit, Josh, that this is pretty impressive. We have brought prophecy after prophecy after prophecy, things that no one could have possibly known or anticipated. We would go into exile. We'd come back after 70 years. We'd go into exile again. We'd be spread all across the world. We'd make major impact on society. And even because of that, everybody would hate us no matter where we went. We'd always be few in number, and on and on and on. And Josh, if you've noticed, God doesn't just have a pretty good record. He's batting 1,000. There's nothing that he said was going to happen that hasn't happened. So what's left? All the Jews are going to move to Israel? Look at how many are already here. All the Jews are going to come back to Torah? Look at how many have already returned through the Tshuva movement. So what do we got left? Mashiach? The third temple? Chiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead? That's all that's left. And in the same way that God has fulfilled everything else he said. Well, if you want to see the beginning of the new world, just take a look out your window. The prophet Zechariah foretold over 2,500 years ago that the Jews would return to Israel. Once again, men and women of old age will sit in the streets, each with cane in hand because of his age. The city streets will be filled with boys and girls playing there. Healthy Jews, young and old, are now living in Israel and are enjoying sunny afternoons in the park. How long has that been since that happened? Over 2,000 years. Lots of times we just aren't paying attention to see how everything has gone according to what the prophet said. And just as the other prophecies were fulfilled, so too will be the prophecy of the coming of the Mashiach, Me'era b'yameinu. Looks like it cleared up, Josh. The weatherman isn't always right, but prophecies always come true.